For those who are not that familiar with this format, my name is Moritz. I'm one of the founding members and board members of Hanseatic Blockchain Institute. We are an association domiciled here in Hamburg, and since we started back in 2019, we have been trying we have been aiming for two things. First of all, we want to help networking within the community of blockchain people in and around Hamburg. Intentionally, we are not called Hamburg, but we are called Hanseatic. So we just want to get the tradition of the Hanse, and then secondly, we want to spread the word about blockchain, talking about use cases, potentials, and so on. And for that, since our very beginning, we invented this logo Blockchain Monday. So more or less each and every Monday, we have had a session where we discuss, we talk to startups and share ideas about application cases. Just quickly, we have recently been awarded as Hanseatic Blockchain Institute by a sponsorship from the Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Climate Control in Germany, and starting on the 1st of April, so more or less today, we are performing a study on potential applications for blockchain and Web3 throughout Germany. And if you are interested in contributing to this study, please everybody visit our website w3now.de. So that was my short commercial introduction. And with that, I have to admit I'm really happy having you here today, because amongst the topics that are most actively discussed as potential areas for application for NFTs, for affiliate marketing based on digital kind of membership, this kind of is how to convert fans of sports clubs into, well, maybe token holders, or to use Web3 features for a closer cooperation between the individual and his favorite the sports club. And yeah, with that, we are very happy of having you here. I pronounce your name correctly, Saorabh?
Sao is okay, Moritz. It's
It's
yeah,
much easier. It gives
yeah,
for discussion. And yeah, you have an impressive background, having worked for Infosys, having worked for Oliver Wyman as a consultant, having worked with Pro7 in Germany, being a management consultant with KPMG, and then you have been in Hamburg and Stockholm, if I get it correctly from your LinkedIn CV, with La Sports, which sounds French and is, I think, predecessor of Sportfive, right? Which is the leading sports marketing agency, I think, in all Europe. And you are the director for the digitalization, or correct me if I'm wrong, and introduce yourself briefly to our audience.
super. No, thanks, Moritz, for the introduction. And we should definitely grab a beer and talk about your visit to Infosys. But very quickly about myself. So yes, Sportfive was owned by Lagardère back in the days, but Sportfive was created in late 80s and early 90s. So it's a very old company. And as part of Sportfive for last 9 years, 6 years, I was working as part of stadium and club commercializations and operations. So I traveled across Europe, lived in different places from Stockholm to Hungary to San Sebastian to Madrid, and there operated the stadiums and helped the clubs commercialize the stadiums. So that I did for 5 years almost, 5 to 5.5 years. Then three and a half years ago, I was given a mandate that, okay, You come to global business dev when Sportfive was re-established again after Lagardère. And as part of that, my mandate was to look for new business models, new opportunities, new market expansion, and new sports. And 2.5 years ago, I mean, 3 years ago personally, I went down the rabbit hole of blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started annoying the people in company that look, there's something here. And then we started getting the first mandates with Sorare. So we started working with Sorare early, mid 2019, early 2020s. So that was one of the earliest mandates that we have with them. And from then on, we got lots of different opportunities. And I was the first employee in the company who started looking in this direction full time. So 2.5 years ago, I got the mandate to start scaling up the business and sort of educate internally different functions, whether it's sales, marketing, and intelligence, and so on and so forth. And also look for opportunities to bring the ecosystem partners so that we can offer the services that are needed in the market. And as part of that, for last 2.5 years ago, we've talked with a ton of brands and ton of IPs, and that's one of the key things I wanted to discuss today. I'm trying to I'm trying very hard not to sell Sportfive and what we're doing and how amazing it is. It's much more what I want to do today is sort of give some information on base of what we have learned in our discussions from IPs and brands and how they are thinking and
Yeah.
what they think is important from their side to understand and get fully fledged into Web3, because there are lots of companies that are dipping their toes in the water and they're not really sure. So, sort of bringing that understanding of, okay, how fans are seeing it, and through that reaction, how IPs and how brands are seeing this whole space and what are their major concerns. And um, that was the key thing that we learned and still are learning. And based on that, we have developed and grown our ecosystem on how we want to solve certain things. And then at the end, I want to just give you a good example from sports side, because there are no best case examples yet. So there's an opportunity there, but a good example that I want to share with the wider group, and yeah, have a discussion if there are any questions.
Perfect, very good. Maybe just briefly, because I quite often spoke to people that work or used to work in a company that is a more traditional company, and then they individually, personally start looking into Web3, and at some point in time they tell their boss, hey, should we do something about Web3 and blockchain? And how was the process in your particular? Because that's I'm keen to understand how did that work out, and how eventually your boss and bosses felt became supportive for your idea, or who was pushing whom, and
Yeah. So let me give a brief about Sportfive, what Sportfive is, and why it is a traditional business. So Sportfive, like I said, was established 28, 30 years ago. And the core business is sales. And we've been very traditional sales agency. We have 300 plus sales employees across the world. We are in 25 to 27 different cities. We work across 30 different sports, and sales is the core business, but then there are lots of supporting business that we started building it up, whether it's marketing, whether it's media department, whether it's fan engagement. So we have a complete full-fledged fan engagement department. We have international department, internationalization department now, which basically is we work with clubs like Borussia Dortmund and Atletico Madrid and Flamingo, Lakers, Chiefs, and these New York Jets and these different giants from sports industry, and help them go to different markets, whether it's bringing Chiefs to Germany or whether taking Atletico and Borussia to US and help them build their offering. And so every few years we see an opportunity as a company. It took us some time to move forward in any direction, whether it was internationalization. You get a couple of use cases, and through that you try to justify that, okay, this is something that's needed in the market. We've been asked again and again. So we have a chance to get foot in the door, and this is how we're going to scale. So that's what happened with internationalization. We got a couple of mandates from Spanish national team, from Belgium national team to expand in Chinese market. We got mandate for Atletico Madrid to expand in the US market, and same goes with a couple of German clubs. So, and that translated back to esports. That was the next wave in 2016, where we started getting some brands interested in that. So it started, we get a couple of cases, and now we are, as an agency, have more than 70 employees across 8 different countries working in esports. So we completely scaled it up, and every year we do almost 75 million worth of different businesses for our IPs that we manage. So, and that's the same concept that more or less happened in case of Web3 also. So the topic was getting interesting, but the scale was not there. So we got Sorare, that was the first case, and there were multiple mandates around it. Then Socios, this was back in 2020 when they just had 3 clubs, Atletico, Barcelona, and another one. They reached out and they wanted to do a couple of deals with us. So that's where it started building it up. And then we did a couple of deals for Sorare and 1 or 2 deals for Socios. And through that, we had a couple of use cases. And then it became much easier for me and the wider group to reach to senior management and said that, look, there's some opportunity here. Why don't we try and scale it up? So that was the journey.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so please start your presentation, and please everybody jump in if you have questions or remarks using the Q&A function.
Just let me know if you're able to see the screen.
Perfect.
Great. So like I mentioned, the idea was to not sell Sportfive, but talk about the problems that we are seeing, and sort of give brand fans an IP point of view to the people who are in the Web3 space or who are looking to get into the sports entertainment and gaming space, and what kind of reactions we are getting from these different stakeholders. Ultimately, everyone wants to target the fans. Now, before we jump into the issues, everyone understands the basic premise that the next generation of fans, or the young fans, let's say it like that, their attention spans are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So, and their need to have either uh, either engagement which is very customized, or they need to get to have offering which helps them increase their social status or help them show off, has become a very important need, and the whole community around is also very important for them. So all these factors are really important, and as a brand you want to target these fans across multiple phases. It's not like I'm just a football fan, I'm a fan of gaming, I love music, I love also arts, and so on and so forth. So they're looking for ways where they can use the IP, use and brands can work together with the IPs to address these different issues around the fan, let's say it like that. So everyone understands that Web3 is, or blockchain technology is important there, but still there are so many question marks around this technology and how it's being scaled up. Just like any major development, that there are growing pains, and that's what I want to focus on. Okay, what are some of those issues that they want to look at, how we at Sportfive are trying to solve, and then best slash a good case. And it's a very top level presentation, so I'll speak more, and there's less in the slide, and that was by design. And please, if anyone has any questions, jump in. And so as part of the issues, there are basically 6 major ones that we usually come across when we talk with an IP or a brand. So it starts with the trust in the technology in the space. Communication is also a red flag in terms of how things are presented to fans and to the IPs and to the brands. Value proposition, it's not easy to understand. There is a lot of technological complexity that happens with any new technology that comes in front. Community and the whole concept of it is flipped out for a club, just like back in the days, early 2010s, and those times when social media suddenly became massive. The whole structure of community completely changed for the IPs and brands. So this is another paradigm that they're going through. And last but not the least, it's like any technology. Even if you consider mobile phones, phones initially were available readily, not cheap, back in mid 90s and early 2000s, but the infrastructure around it was so costly that the whole offering was very costly. So supporting tools that are needed are not really there, or not at the advanced level where these IPs and brands are comfortable using. And all these leads to sort of collaboration issues. There's a push and pull that's going on between Web2 and Web3 brands. And we as a Sportfive, and I as a person working in this space, is in the middle of all this. So I'll go through each and every point very briefly. And if you have any specific points and specific questions, just please let me know. So first one, trust issues. With all the rug pulls and the exploitations in terms of contract, when it's called smart contract, is yeah, not very, let's say, assuring for IPs and brands, because at the end of the day, these brands have built their brand name over a period of 100 years. If it's Manchester United or Liverpool, so they don't want to get associated unless this trust issue is not completely solved, but there is a high degree of certainty and trust with any offering that they can put their name on and present it in front of users. Even some very good brands in sports space, and I'll give you a very bad example, is who actually did a very poor job in terms of building these trust factors with the fans. So Liverpool Football Club, they tied up with one of the auction houses, Sotheby's, and they launched, not at the peak, but early 2022, a digital collectibles offering. There was no long-term roadmap. There was not clarity about utility, drop mechanics were not explained, and the whole process on where to go, how to buy, it was very complicated. And club didn't care because they got a lot of money up front to do this. Um, and yeah, so the whole project was really bad. And again, that eroded quite a lot of trust with the fans, not only with that club, but overall ecosystem, where fans were like, yeah, it's a scheme or a scam where two parties join forces together. And that's another way where they want to just screw us up and take our money. Another way to milk the cash cow. So, and after that, and a couple of other examples, a lot of brands and IP, especially in sports, entertainment, and gaming. Also now, gaming is a bit more open. They're very cautious on how they want to approach the market. So solving this trust issue, whether it's about the brand, whether it's about the offering, whether it's about how to approach, all this is very critical for IPs and brands to bring next millions of fans, because fans really have not very good idea of Web3 space in general. And Socios and their fan token offering has also made things very complicated. Next issue we frequently face with IPs, with fans and brands is the communication. It's a very complicated language when a Web3 person is speaking, or in general when Web3 and blockchains are in the picture. It's
Yeah.
about the contracts. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Is there any question?
No, but I just wanted to say fair enough. You
Yeah.
mentioned Sorare. Are you going to go into a little bit detail of what exactly they do? Because I'm not sure if everybody is fully aware of that, or can you briefly explain what Sorare is about? Because I understand that the Sportfive was some kind of an well, intermediary to help Sorare getting into the clubs, and the clubs into Sorare, right?
Yes. Yes, that was one of the basic structure. It was like any sponsorship deal. that we do on behalf of clubs. But in case of Sorare, we also did a little bit more than that. So let me give you information bit more about Sorare. So with three technology and blockchain, everyone says they're going to change the world and everything, and that's a and then when you ask, and this is the next point, where it's value proposition. When you talk about, okay, what is the value proposition of a blockchain system? It's a bit complicated to explain everything because of complicated language, complicated structure that's needed. So what Sorare did was it simplified the whole value proposition. They said that, look, in current scenario, you have the fantasy sports, which I play with my friends, and it's a very distributed marketplace. Lots of newspapers and lots of different kinds of clubs have their own small thing where I play with against my friend, and it's all fun and games. Maybe we pool the money, maybe we don't pool the money, and after a certain point of time, people lose interest. But people are interested to start playing. So what Sawyer did was that, okay, why don't we take this simple game, which is being played for last 15 years, we add two components to it. One is we we create a structure around this where there are four different leagues. People can move up and down the league, so we can make the whole gameplay very interesting. And second, what they did was, as a fan, whatever I play, whatever I do, I don't have a chance to earn money back. There's no way. I just spend the money on TV. I spend money on buying the jersey. I spend money on tickets. I spend money on F&B, right? So now what they can do is they can buy these things, and if player performs really well or changes the club to go to a bigger club, suddenly value of that particular collectible becomes high, and then you can trade and you can get some money back. So gameplay improved and money improved. So they took a very simple thing. They added their own small improvements, not small, but simple improvements to create a very simple value proposition, which is understandable to wider market. And that's what we think usually could work very well. If you go all guns blazing and say that, look, everything's going to change and it's going to be awesome, it doesn't work with neither IP nor brands. It's something which has to be very tangible and very simple for them to understand, okay, what is the value proposition? In case of Sorare, the value proposition was, I'll make it more interesting so you can move the leagues, and I'll give you a chance to earn some money back. So that's how they played it, and that's why value proposition has to be extremely simple for these IPs and brands to really um, be interested to go forward. Because a lot of these, and I gave some examples here, right? Whether it's Polygon, whether it's Optimism, whether it's Avalanche, whether it's Polkadot and Binance, when you talk to these guys, IPs are like, okay, look, I don't understand what is finality, what is block time, and how you settle the payments and gas fees and different kinds of wallets. I don't know. I don't care, because if Microsoft comes and sells me something, all I ask is, okay, what is my benefit? I get a dashboard where I can see all the things around the fan, and this is how data would be collected. That's it. So the value proposition right now is very complicated in how it is explained, and it's related to how it is communicated because of all those jargons. Does that answer your question, Moritz?
Absolutely, yeah, fair enough.
Great. Yeah. So simplifying this communication is very important for end user and also for the IPs in terms of how they talk, how they want to participate, and what they want to do. I already talked about the value proposition. It has to be very simple, very straightforward in terms of what could be done, how it could be done. And then it's not about taking baby steps, because what Soraya did was not very simple. But again, they did something which is easy to digest, easy to understand. The next one is, and this is one of the key things where a lot of IPs and brands are like, okay, we don't know, because the technological integration is still very complicated. It takes time with almost all technologies, but in case of Web2, we don't really talk about how the packets are exchanged. We don't really talk about what is the security infrastructure, where the data is stored, and all those things. We know it's Amazon.com. I can go in there. If I did my KYC ML, I have my I have my credit card information. I can buy a $50 thing, or I can buy a $5,000 or $10,000 Apple stuff. It doesn't matter. So in case of Web3, the whole situation is so complicated that even if I want to um, transfer something, I need to first upload the KYC buy the token, change the token, select the right blockchain, and then you have to make sure the other wallet address is correct where you are sending something. And so all these steps and the gas fees and the crypto payments and stable coins and everything makes it really complicated for an IP or a brand to say that, look, it's just way too complicated for me and my fans. Can you integrate your offering to my simple system? Can you include SSO? Can you include social login? So things are improving with Web3 Auth, Auth Zero, and some of the things that are being done. But the overall system is still extremely complicated. And what makes it even complicated further is the GDPR regulation in Europe. Because if I work with a blockchain provider and it's a custodial wallet, first custodial and non-custodial, again in itself a complicated thing for IPs to understand. But if it's a custodial wallet, someone has to store all the data, someone has to manage everything, and IPs don't want to take that risk. Or if they want to take the risk, they need to have a lot of assurances from a third party. And that makes the whole deal structure extremely complicated. What happens if deal is not extended? What happens when things move out of the wallet? So all those things make this whole integration really complicated. Another thing that's sort of bit difficult for IPs to or brands to understand or utilize in the best way possible is the use of Reddit, Discord, and Telegram. So Twitter, Instagram, they've reconciled it. YouTube, they use it in their own special way, not doing too many things. Um, but Discord and Telegram and Reddit, they are completely new paradigm for a lot of these IPs. They don't really have a presence there. They don't know what kind of language, lingo, and communication that needs to happen there and how to best engage. And another complicated part is IPs, they just don't want people to go out of their own ecosystem. They're anyway struggling with Twitter, Instagram, and how they have very little information from these parties, third parties, and with respect to their fans. So they're very much struggling, and brands are asking more and more about yeah, there's a we want to understand the fans, we want to understand the data, we want to customize the offering. Can you help us? So again, creating a third party where they want to move the fans, because that's how traditional Discord, Telegram based two-way communication happens between fans and whatever the Web3 community and whatever the project is. That's something which is very difficult for an IP to understand and start working on. That's also something where it will take time and a lot of support is needed to build those community, to bring IP into the next level, and also the brands. Now, like I mentioned before, the supporting infrastructure is not really there, because even if IP, even if you look at big teams, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid's the world, like really top teams in football, they are 20, 25 people business, 30 people at max. They have their weekly work, they have their match day work, they have their standard work, business as usual, and something like this comes on top, which they don't really understand. They need a lot of help. And right now, a lot of them are asking, okay, on chain, I understand roughly what it means, but how can I get the data? Someone has to make it so simple that I click on a dashboard, I have all the information, I can play around. I don't care. I really don't care whether it's a Ethereum wallet, whether it's a Avalanche based thing, or whether it's a Flow wallet. I don't care. All I want is, okay, do I have a simple system where I can see everything? And do I have a content managed dashboard where I can manage and sort of uh, make sure that right offering is going at right place and I have complete control. But those supporting tools are being built, and there's still some ways to go for these tools to have such simplicity. Dynamic and a couple of other wallets have started offering these sort of very simple analytics tool. But again, it's still very early stages. Now,
Yeah.
those were the major issues um, with respect to how IPs and brands are seeing the space. And they're caring a lot about how fans will perceive them, what would be some of the red flags for the fans. And that's what I tried to highlight top six ones. Now, because of that, the IPs think that, okay, look, it's a complicated space. It's hard for me to understand. I don't know whether my fans would like it or not. So they're not ready for really long-term commitment. They need lots of support and they need lots of confidence. And to give their brand name, they expect, okay, give me a huge upfront fee or some kind of massive commitment because I have the trust. You want to borrow my brand name to build trust with you in your brand name. Then you need to give me something which is significant enough that I want to take a chance on you. And you also need to support me day to day because I have no idea about the products. I just cannot give you everything. I need you to help me out here. And that's something which a lot of these blockchain partners and companies they don't want to do. They want to give them the tools and they want them as an IP or brand to use these tools, but these tools are very complicated. So that's basically where the friction comes between what.
Looking into the different sports from your experience, which are the ones that are most advanced in terms of willingness and preparedness to support Web3? Is it soccer or which one from your experience is the kind of most advanced? And what would be the percentage of, say, German Bundesliga soccer clubs where the management is aware that Web3 might be the future? What's your perception?
So it's a two-phased questions. One is about general in sports, which are ahead, which are not, and second one is Bundesliga specific. Um, so I'll answer the first one first. Sports-wise, I mean, the one that's most ahead of everyone else is NBA because they put a lot of their faith and they made a lot of money with Flow and NBA Top Shot, right? So they definitely have that. Plus, they're also investors in Sorare, so they have equity there. So they are the ones who are a bit advanced, and because they have their product and their product was the most successful one till now. But as we saw, crypto winter or not, their sales are really going down, and Flow in general and NBA Top Shot in particular are really struggling. Now, in case of all the other um, major players, NFL is the biggest one. They're very cautious. So as a NFL, you're not allowed to as lots of clubs are our partners. So we talked with Kansas City Chiefs, we were in talks with New York Jets. No one is allowed to do anything unless NFL creates a central rule on how this should work. So they're still trying to figure out, they're trying a couple of small things, but I would say none of them are that far ahead. Everyone has dipped their toes a little because of NBA Top Shot, so moments and those things are okay, but that's the only product that they're going out with. They're not really pushing the envelope in terms of building a loyalty program powered by Web3. This is not happening. So, and in case of soccer, it's even bad and it's even worse because football clubs, the problem they face is most of these clubs have 50 to 60% of revenue, especially in first league, coming from media. Then sponsorship is added on top. That's another 20%. So you have 80 to 85% of revenue covering from two different streams. Now, if they have to work quite a bit and solve all the issues that I mentioned to you before, and result is a million here, 500,000 there, it's not really worth it for them to invest time, effort, and energy at this stage, right? And same goes with the brands that are associated with these IPs, because these brands, they don't want to do it themselves. They want an IP to sort of share the burden, share the risk of brand. But IPs are like, look, we can do something else, and we have to be a bit more cautious here in terms of trying few things. So it's not that easy. So we're trying. The key thing is to simplify the whole thing. So that's the first part of it. So I don't think so. Apart from NBA, anyone is even closer. They're in completely different level. La Liga is the closest thing to NBA, who have done a decent job in terms of Web3 and getting in the partnerships and everything. Now comes the second part to your question, Moritz, when you were asking about Bundesliga. Mm, And this is my feeling, not Sportfive. So don't quote me on that. But I would say a lot of these clubs, like I mentioned here, is they want upfront commitment. Now, it could be a small monetary commitment plus massive guarantees if some numbers, figures, and KPIs are not hit, or it's something else. But if you have those commitments like Sorare did or Socios did back in the day to get the right, it's not that easy for a IP or a brand to commit for long term. You can get some of the things, maybe one small case here, one small case there, but they don't really want to commit long term. And then that's the story of Bundesliga. It's even worse in Premier League. And yeah, so La Liga is bit ahead because of support from the La Liga ownership committee. So the clubs there have more support. So that's why they're a bit more open. But yeah, everyone is just trying to take baby steps to make sure that they don't burn their fingers like Liverpool did. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. So that's the way Web3 and Web2 companies are having friction. And that's where we come in, where we as Sportfive, we are building our offering to make sure that IPs have right support, brands have right support, where we build the ecosystem where we can bring in infrastructure provider. We have global agreement with Polygon, but if, for example, we were talking with one big La Liga club and they have deals with Socios, and Socios just launched Chili's chain, so they want to go in that direction. We are agnostic. We'll help you identify and sort out the infrastructural issue together with a partner. We also have built our own portfolio of white label offering where we can go to a club and or brand and say that, look, what do you want to do? We can help you first figure it out and then help you execute. Whether you want to do collectibles, whether you want to do hybrid products of physical and digital, whether it's memorabilia or merchandise, doesn't matter. We're looking into gamification in terms of how to power Web3 loyalty, because we see that the whole gaming industry, it's so powerful because fans there or players there, gamers, have particular quest. To complete the quest, they have wins, and then they have social ladders, and based on social ladders, they get rewarded. More or less, this concept is not existing in loyalty program, and that's what we want to build, the gamification part, with some information on chain, some off chain, but that depends on how we want to execute. And last but not the least, to solve the communication issue, the trust issue, the education issue. That's where Sport5 has a lot of knowledge and also how to build the community. So that's sort of the offering that we are building for IPs and brands. And we have built our solid trusted partner network, whether it's Animoca and their massive ecosystem, whether it's Moonpay and Hypermint and their ecosystem of payment service provider and white label marketplace. And then lots of different digital collectible platform, whether it's Colex or Settlement or eShort Labs. We have metaverse offering also, whether you can build in centralized, non-centralized metaverses. And we're also starting to work with analytics company, whether it's loyalty program related, drop or hang, whether it's Discord and others, where Comoon comes in, or whether it's art and comics and those things where Join comes in. So we've started building our massive partner network. We are educating the IPs. It's taking time, just like everything with the IPs and some of the brands, especially working very closely with these IPs. But we've created this to abstract the complexity, which I mentioned previously. And yeah, the idea is to help them understand what are their needs, help them develop the end-to-end strategy, help them set up, scale the project team and execute, and then innovate. So basically going from A to Z, where they can pick and choose what they want to do. And we want to help them out in terms of how they can scale this up. We want to give them confidence. We want to give them the resources, and we want to give them time which they don't have to help them scale up. And this is what we've built at Sportfive, which I was part of. And before I jump into a good case, anyone has any questions?
I think everybody is really keen to now see what your kind of favorite applications are.
Yeah, so I was focused in sports. So I looked at Manchester United and I've looked at McLaren Racing, and they both are part of Tezos. It's the same blueprint that they use. So I'll take Manchester United example here. Um, and in case of Manchester United and Tezos, what they did was very smart in the sense that they just don't want to go towards running towards money, that okay, give me your money and this is the NFT, and not doing the work before. So they announced the partnership, which in massive way. They spend time and they created lots of content around Tezos and around the partnership, so that people really understand that Manchester United wants to go into this space. So they spend money, they spend effort, they spend time. They created a narrative that Tezos and Manchester United together, we are going into next generation of engagement with our fans. So that's where they start building the seriousness around this whole thing, and not just as Tezos is one of the partners.
I think you need to help me. What exactly did they offer to whom, in which format? I'm not into this, I have to admit, and maybe participants are not as much.
Yeah. So what they did was, in terms of this whole partnership, um, they abstracted the complexity. They didn't said that Tezos is fastest and the block time is really fast, and it's a layer zero solution. None of those things. They said that look, it's a sustainable solution. It's very simple to onboard people there, and there is a lot of very good people behind building this thing, and they have done some good projects around bringing the use cases to the market. That's how they sort of positioned them. And then they said that Tezos was the best partner for Manchester United, not only because they paid a lot of money, but the way they structured was that Tezos will help them simplify the complication and help them take this engagement with the fans to the next level. And so that's more or less the message they gave. And every single message was either focused on community, or focused on how it will help them engage, or focused on sustainability, because those are the three things their fans care. And those are the three things Manchester United wanted to push, that okay, these are the reasons why we are doing something, and which is a bit different than the others. And that's what they keep on following. So once they announced this deal, then they announced the whole, okay, we're going to launch a digital collectible official Manchester United. They took some very smart steps. So first one is they integrated all the information in main website. So it's not like you have to go to a separate website. You come to manunited.com, which is and also the app where a lot of these fans go and check the information. So they made it extremely legit that, okay, all the information is there in the main website, and they promoted it again heavily. Now, before they launched anything, they took 45 to 60 days to educate. They talked about sustainability. They talked about the long-term vision. They talked about wallet. They talked about blockchain. They talked about engagement in Web3 space. What is digital collectible? So they used players, they used influencers, and they sort of start um, pushing more and more knowledge in a very simple word and terms to the fans. And so that was the second step. The third step was, and this happened for 45 days. Third step was they did a free drop. So they don't want people to come and throw money at them to launch something. That's not how they wanted to do it. So they did a free drop where anyone can come and mint a simple NFT or collectible. And yeah, if you get lucky, you get a different kind of key. And if you get super lucky, you get extremely rare black key. And you need this key to go on a quest for Manchester United. So they made it very simple with a free drop. And the digital wallet, I did both keys and also the Devils drop. I participated in both. And the whole process was really simple. It was all social sign up. It was, they mentioned wallet, create wallet just one time in terms and conditions. And it was very simple for me to mint everything. It was very quick. So they abstracted quite a bit the complexity. And because of free drops, and those are two different things, they had 888,000 mint of these keys that you see in point number 3. Now, the key point there is that 888,000 NFTs were minted, but I checked on chain. The information that's conflicting is I saw 8 to 10,000 wallets minting those things. So I don't know how 8 to 10,000 new users minting those things. So I don't know how this is reconciled, and I've asked Tezos about it, but I haven't have got any answer. But bottom line is 888,000 wallets were created because every wallet could mint only one NFT. So, which is very good for a blockchain to establish trust, saying that, look, I can handle heavy load because everything happened within 3 days, this 800,000 mints. They also showed very easily that it was so easy to do it that a lot of people created the wallet again and again to do this. And third one is it's a big number. Even Sorare, since their inception, they're at 1.2 or 1.3 million NFTs that are minted. So the number is sheer number is very high. And so those things were very smart from Manchester United side. The next part was that once you have the keys, within 24 to 48 hours, when momentum was really right, they got these users down the funnel where they launched 7777 different devils that you can mint by paying $35 to $40. So there is 280 or $300,000 out of this whole thing. So it was not about the money, especially for Manchester United. 300,000 is nothing. But they also added a charity thing that, okay, 25% of the proceeds would go to a charity. And you need this particular the next step to get into the journey with Manchester United. So a lot of people show up, and the whole campaign was sold within 8 hours or something. Uh, and Yeah, so whole 7777 things were minted, and this was December around Christmas, and at the very worst time of the whole bear market. So because of what work they did, it went very well. And for all the things that Manchester United did from the start, they were very focused on using Discord, because the idea from their side was we bring the guys on Discord, we give them the roles, we educate them there, and we do activation, most of the activations there. So since the launch of these keys and Devils project, they've got 5 or 6 different players doing Ask Me Anything sessions. The team has done multiple sessions in terms of what's coming next. They've done an additional free mint and additional drops for the owners of the Devils. So when Manchester United went to the finals of local cup and when they won the cup, so they're doing and trying lots of new things there, and that's why it's a very good case, but not the best case, because it's still focus is too much on those 7777 devil owners, which are around 4,000. But Manchester United has 200, 300, 400 million fans, right? So they're missing an opportunity, A, on the guys who are on the Discord, because there are 91,000 uh, fans on the Discord. And second is about the guys who actually took the pain of coming to the website, doing the login, going through the process, minting the keys, and none of the things are happening for them. So that's a missing piece where Manchester United could do so much more, but maybe it comes down the line. And that's why it's a good case yet. Maybe in 6 months we revisit this and it could be a excellent case. Yeah, but that was the use case, and with that, the presentation is over. Thank you.
Okay, and if I may ask, so what was your Sportfive role in this context? Did you advise them, or is it just a case where you have not been?
No, we were not involved in this case because Desert and Manchester United did themselves. The case that we did at Sportfive was about digital collectibles in Southeast Asia. And that case was best case in a different way. I was thinking much more in terms of the overall sheer number of sales and everything. What we did was we launched a collectible project in Southeast Asia for AFF Mitsubishi Cup, which is played across 10 countries. It's 30-day event. And the whole thing, and this is what we did with the IMOCA. So the whole thing was come to fruition within 60 days. So we are very pressed for time doing this. So we started with education journey. We created 10 different discords. We educated them about what is wallet and all those different things. But because of technological complication and also associated with payment system, because a lot of these countries have their own complications with respect to legal and payment system, some of them which we were not able to solve on time. Our case was much more okay, educating the local market and less about the revenue because that was not so good result for us. But we were in the ballpark of Manchester United and their drops anyway.
Have you seen any projects in Germany that might serve as something one should look into?
There must be a few projects. I mean, I was listening to Anna Graf a few weeks ago. She works for Arvato. And she was talking about Sissy, some German series, and their drop. And
That's not a sports team yet.
yeah, that's no. So
I was wondering if you have any kind of using Web3 for affiliate marketing.
yeah, no, sports, not really. Most of the guys, the sports deal, and we have brokered majority of those, whether it's Coinbase and Borussia Dortmund, whether it's Bayer Leverkusen and their digital collectibles deal. It's a very standard product. It's either fantasy sports or moments, nothing else. We also did a couple of deals in the US for creator economy. So we brought Coinbase and Kevin Durant together. But again, those cases are few far between, and this was peak of bull run, and there all bets were off, and it was less about innovation. It's much more about okay, getting whoever we can. So and those things are changing now. Now people, whether it's Kevin Durant and whether it's other guys, everyone is very cautious in terms of how and what they want to do, and there are many more questions around how they want to do it, and that's why we have scaled our solution in a particular way.
Okay, got it. So please, everybody from the auditorium, ask your questions if you have any. And so I personally would be keen to understand from your experience, if I was running a soccer club in Germany, what would be the kind of three key arguments for me from you to persuade me to start looking into Web3 and the opportunities and possibilities?
One is that the first point that I would mention to any club, or I still do to any club or IP that I talk with, is your fans are changing, their preferences are changing, and they have less and less money for you. Because before, football was a religion, and the local guys were the kings, and that was the religion everyone followed. If I'm from here, either I'll follow St. Pauli or I'll follow HSV. Those things are changing. Those things are changing quite significantly. Now you're competing against Netflix, you're competing against Tinder, you're competing against people changing their sneakers every 30 days or 45 days, and all the 100 different things that are coming. So you're competing for attention, you're competing for their time, you're competing for money. So your competition has completely changed. Because of that, you need to do something to better understand them. Right now, most of the data that you have is third party owned, very little is yours. How are you going to understand them if you don't have any data? And that's where Web3 is a very powerful source, because if you start understanding fans and which communities a person is interacting from the same wallet, and then you understand better that, okay, I have a lot of fans that also work with or interested in NBA or in basketball. They also like music. So there's so many different ways then you can start finding partnership and bringing these different types of people and promoters and partners to attract the fan back and sort of stay within your ecosystem. So that's one. On top of it, the other opportunity is fans, like I mentioned before, they just spend. They don't really get anything back. So you have to address one or two of the key parameters they look into. Either they get bragging rights, or it helps them socially, or it helps them make money. It has to, or they're part of a bigger community, which is sexy and attractive community to be in. If it doesn't understand or answer one of these pillars, it's not going to work out. And a lot of these fans are going towards the digital merchandise. I mean, so if you go to school, the jacket at Fortnite that you could, or the skin at Fortnite is way more popular and way more sort of giving you a social ladder and standing as compared to a normal jacket that you go to school physically wearing. So those factors you have to understand. A lot of these guys are gamer now. They have a different view. They live in digital world. They have friends in digital world. They talk to them way more in digital world because of WhatsApp, because of messages, because of game. So they are there. If you're not there, it's a massive risk for you, especially not this generation, maybe, but in 5, 7, 10 years.
All right. One more question, because we are getting closer to our kind of that deadline time-wise. So most of the clubs are still organized in the very traditional form of a club, where you become a member as a fan. And I don't know, but I assume that historically many clubs were trying to get as many members as possible, because they would pay some kind of membership fees, and that would be the kind of obvious documentation of affiliation to sign in as a member. And my assumption would be that the traditional membership is a little bit outdated somehow. Is there a tendency to replace membership by becoming a kind of member of a tokenized community, or is that too early to consider that as a new format for clubs?
It depends on the level of the club, right? If I'm Manchester United, I don't need to have support of any other common community. I'm Manchester United, I'm big enough. But if
Yeah.
I'm a very small third division club in middle of nowhere in France, it's a different story. It might be better for me to be part of something like that, right? That's why guys like Kraus, House, Dow, and those guys exist, because the thing that they tell to people is that, look, we are a common community of basketball fans in case of Kraus House. Now, our goal is to own a minority share, and in some cases, if possible, majority share of a club. Now, if you're a basketball fan, you could be fan of Bulls, Lakers, Knicks, or whoever. It doesn't matter. You're a basketball fan. You love the sports. You want to impact the sports. Why don't you come? You join my community, and we'll build this together. So that's what they did. And football, it might work, it might not work. I think it would be way more interesting from athletes' point of view, because athletes, they don't really have direct access to fans. Their relations are managed by either the club or managed by either the sponsors or social media. So as an athlete, I'm even worse than the club in terms of knowing who my fans are. You like a post from a particular athlete, it's the same level as if I like a post, comment on a post, share every post, discuss with my friends, doesn't matter. You and I are at the same level. So opportunity, I think, is way more in that side and less so in the IP side, especially for the big ones.
Got it, understood, obviously, yeah. And I mean, in many cases, if you want to get something new into a traditional system, what would be your kind of starting, the drug to start with, the initial step for a traditional club to say, okay, we start entering into that. Is it issue an NFT, or is it selling something, or that's still something I'm struggling. What would be a adequate first step into Web3 to demonstrate that you have started entering that space? Because the Tezos example, I mean, this was a big, long-term kind of community um, 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 campaign. I would say, is it possible to just start with an MVP kind of approach?
Um, no, but for sure, definitely. There are two levels to it. Um, from our point of view at Sportfive, and for my personal point of view. First one is IPs have to understand that if someone throws money at you, they'll take the product, they'll keep it at their platform, and you won't have much say, which is not good for you. You want to understand the fans, you want to keep the control of the fans and how you interact, what you interact with, what you give, what you take. So the narrative that we are pushing heavily from Sport5 side is that, look, IPs, you have to try a few things. Like you mentioned, a proof of concept sort of, where it's all about engagement. So you have to give some more and a little bit more, and then maybe you can take back. But it's four step that you have to do. So that fifth step is something where you can get money. Now, the fourth step doesn't mean you're not going to get anything. Maybe what you can do is you can innovate with one of the brands. Again, that's where a lot of capabilities come in within the company, that you can bring the brands together and you can create a very simple proof of concept. It could be as match day related memorabilia or collectible, where you collect three, and fourth one, you get a signed collectible from your favorite player. Now, as a fan, I never have a chance to get something signed, because either I have to be really in front of a player to get it signed, and that's again a very difficult chance, or I have to know someone through that I can get something signed. So that could be a very simple case. You bring a main partner in or supporting partner in, and they take the cost. We take the risk in terms of helping you build up, and you do a proof of concept. So that way, you do three or four of those cases. You do a couple of activation, you do couple of activities around where you again give more benefit to fans, where they want to give you more information, and you start building sort of a flywheel where you do something, fans have to do X, Y, and Z to get that. Once they do X, Y, and Z, you check, okay, they did X, Y, and Z. Okay, so those guys are way more interested. They get something. And then fans are like, okay, I'm getting something back from the club, which was not the case before. Why don't I participate in next one also? And the next one, and the next one. And that's how the flywheel could be built.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So location-wise, is the UK, or is it the US, or is it Asia? Which region is the most advanced from your perception so far?
Um, so there are 2 points to it. One is, if you look at just from what IPs and clubs and sports are doing, and the second one is the user base there, in the sense that the people who are actively engaging and working or doing something in Web3 and blockchain space,
Yeah.
right? So in the first point of view, US is way advanced, which is about how IPs are behaving, what they want to do, how they want to do it, which is understandable. US is anyway forefront of everything. And Europe is very traditional. Asia and Southeast Asia and China, they are a bit more open, but monetary, they cannot spend a lot. So size of wallet is small. So that's one way of looking into it. The other way to look into it is, like I mentioned, in India, you have 60, 70 million or 80 million users actively doing something or interacting with either cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, and X, Y, and Z in the whole ecosystem. They are part of it. Now, there is a highly likely probability that a certain percent are sports fans. Even a small drop in the ocean is still 5, 10 million people, right? And that's why the size of the whole pie changes in terms of sheer numbers if you go to Southeast Asia, China, India, and those regions. Just the sheer size and sheer volume. And it's not like size of wallet is people who are already doing something with or interacting with digital landscape. Their size of wallet is not small, because even the cheapest of things, if you're doing something digital, is 10, $15, which is not a small size. I mean, if I'm Manchester United and I can get 100,000 people paying 30 euros, and or a million people paying 30 euros, it's 30 million, right? So the number changes completely. So it depends of which angle you want to look at and how you want to address them.
Got it. Thank you. So yeah, thank you. That was really insightful, and I had expected to have more participants today, and I don't know why that's the case. Maybe there's a soccer game, and people decided to prefer that. Nonetheless, for me, I learned quite a lot, and I fully agree with your view that sports is definitely a sector where we will see many application cases for Web3. However, which are the ones that will prove to be successful and generate significant money movements, that's pretty hard to predict, because we are still quite early. But it's impressive to see how deep you are into it already, and which are potential areas for further improvements. With that, it was a great pleasure having you. Thank you very much, and wishing you all the best, and have a nice evening.
Super. And thanks, Moritz, for inviting me, and to Anna and the other guys. It was really nice to be here. Appreciate it. And anyone who has any questions, I'm happy to answer separately, no problems. And hopefully, we speak soon.
Perfect. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Have a nice day.